Great, everybody. I want to welcome you to this short Aiki discussion with Roy Dean of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fame. I hope I can say that, Roy. I mean, I'm not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, but I know about you, so that must mean something. Anyways, it's really cool to have you with us, and I'm super happy that you've agreed to join the Aikido at the Leading Edge Tele-Summit. So thanks for that.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I'm excited about being able to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, and that's cool because I think you actually do have something to contribute. Not just because you're a proficient in the art of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but you're also two other things. You're proficient in what I say. You're proficient in advocating your teaching through media, which is it's always I think you got really great production quality, and there's some really wonderful stuff that you're offering on your basically your online dojo. So if people want to go there, they can look at that. But also, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but you do have a black belt in Aikido. So you have what to say. It's not like you're speaking from the outside and talking in towards us that are doing Aikido, but you're actually on the inside of Aikido as well. So and basically what we're going to be discussing, you're going to be on a panel discussion with a few other interesting people looking at the question of, is Aikido a martial art? So you want to say something about that?
Certainly. I find I understand how people can make the argument that it's not a martial art. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I fully believe that it is a martial art.
Yeah.
And the proof is in practicing the art and feeling the reality and the truth of each technique. If you attack according to the vector where Aikido is proficient and the appropriate response is given to you, then you can't help but feel the realism and the leverage. You can't deny leverage.
Yeah, and you can't. Yeah, right. You can't. It's pure physics. But it's interesting what you said that some people say Aikido isn't a martial art, but you can say that from two perspectives. You can say it from the outside, looking down on Aikido and thinking, these guys would never last in a real fight, which there's probably some validity to that statement. Or there's people also on the inside of Aikido, even teachers that make the claim that Aikido is not a martial art. It's a spiritual path, it's this, it's that, whatever, for whatever reason. We're going to bring those people into this conference as well. But where do you stand in that kind of balance between those two perspectives?
Well, I wouldn't say, I would definitely say it's a martial art.
Yeah.
Is it a complete martial art? Mm-hmm. I think it can be a complete practice. But is it a complete martial art in and of itself?
Right.
Perhaps not.
Is there a complete martial art in and of itself? Any martial art?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, there's always another move, another style, and I mean, if you look at the evolution of martial arts in the States, for example, from the 50s until now, there have been waves of the coolest, neatest thing that came out that kicked ass of the thing before, that located the limitations of the previous style, beat it, and then became the hottest thing for 10 years, and then it had its limitations. The next martial art located the limitations of that style, and it kept evolving forward.
Exactly.
And each one of them said, hey, we're more complete.
Here's the thing. When you start getting really complete, you start losing depth.
So if you go broad, like if you go horizontally, you really try to kind of cover all the bases, then you lose that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I feel that there are some really complete systems out there. Right. For example, Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. Danzanryu, it has punches, it has kicks, it has throws, it has even has healing techniques. Yet those practitioners have not done as well if you put them up against like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, because the depth in the training methods that BJJ people incorporate makes them so expert in their particular realm.
Right.
Yet you stand BJJ people up, and it can look bad. It is not. It's a specialization in a particular realm, and it's very powerful if you don't know how to operate within that framework of movement in that realm. For example, on the ground, you have to overcome the friction of the ground, perhaps your weight on you, and if you don't understand the direction to move, or the common responses that you are following, because it plays off of common reactions. It can be really bad. Yet you look at the stand up of a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, even high level competitors, and it's usually not great. There's a big influence of American wrestling, and it used to be more judo influence in the original Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when it first came over to the US.
Yeah.
But and you can say that about a lot of people. A lot of judo people do not have really in-depth newaza or ground fighting techniques, or separated judo techniques of Aikido. A lot of people are not familiar with what to do as a person is coming in at you, how to off-balance somebody when they give you a fully committed attack.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing. Yeah, as soon as we identify something, we say something is something, that this is it. It strengthens
and
it.
It's not that.
It does strengthen. It says, hey, look, now, it's like what was his name? Archimedes. Give me a lever long enough, give me a firm point on which to stand on a lever long enough, and I can move the world. So we have to have that Archimedean point to say, this is it. And it strengthens it and empowers it as something. But as soon as we do that, we also kind of put a boundary around it, and beyond that boundary, it's limited. And that's just a fact of the way things are. To say something is something is cool. To say it isn't something, it's also cool because it's also true. But to turn that to collapse into one of those two perspectives and turn it into a fight is a little bit missing the point, in my opinion.
I love where you're going with that. I mean, defining something, it definitely encapsulates its essence, yet that is against we're in duality here, so then you have this backdrop of what it is not.
Right.
And I think Aikido is perfect for that. It is these things, but there are things that it is not. It does not perhaps come through on every level, and that's okay. It's more about being honest about what that is, and do you even want to rectify that?
Exactly. Being honest with it, and do you want to rectify it? And I think that's a problem. I mean, whether you're on the inside of Aikido or on the outside, the mistake that, to use that word kind of lightly, but the mistake that we can make is to say that, there's a few mistakes we can make, but to say, hey, Aikido is as equally good as anything else. When it certainly as a fighting art, it doesn't stand up to other arts. But as a spiritual path, it can be a spiritual path, but it can also be, a martial art if somebody wants to make it that.
Absolutely, I agree. In terms of its strength as a spiritual practice, I think that's one of the unique selling propositions of Aikido.
Right.
Now, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a more holistic philosophy. I definitely see it as a path toward enlightenment, however you define that.
That's awesome. I haven't heard that I haven't been around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I can't say much, but I haven't heard that coming out of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No, that's kind of a unique perspective.
That's awesome.
Because there's something to being able to practice it and get in touch with that direct experience of the reality of the mat. Like if you're losing, if you're winning, if that was a hard battle, there's nothing like that kind of direct experience to ground.
Yeah, completely grounds you in reality.
Absolutely, and I feel so good. I mean, it's my happiness machine. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is my happiness machine.
That's awesome.
My low impact, high intensity happiness machine.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great.
But on the other hand, it might be supported. Certainly, competition is supported within the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community.
Yeah.
But approaching it as a lifestyle is as close to it gets as approaching it as a spiritual path. And so you can, and the lifestyle thing, that's kind of a nebulous term. Like, what does that mean? That means, I guess, training regularly, watching what you eat, having purpose in your life and in your travel by traveling to different tournaments. I mean, there's all different ways it can positively influence your interaction with other people and foster new and exciting cooperative relationships.
Right. Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, for Aikido, even though it has this higher philosophy to it, for the average person, it's mostly a lifestyle enhancer rather than a spiritual path, even in Aikido.
It absolutely, and it has that optional extension.
What do you mean?
But even though most people do not
Yeah.
take it to that degree.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, even in spiritual communities, religions, it's always a minority of people that take it to that degree.
True, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely a lay Aikido practitioner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, but I definitely feel the philosophy of Aikido can be expressed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of non-resistance, blending with your opponent, redirection without harming. I
Mm.
think all of these things are possible. On the other hand, it's does it really have the perfect balance? Does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu have the perfect balance? No. Does Aikido, as an alternate form of Jiu-Jitsu, have the perfect balance? I would say no, but it depends on what you lean towards.
Right, yeah.
And I definitely feel it's a martial art for those that are more interested in the technical, in exercising it as a martial art and exploring that truth. Um, I feel that it's an exciting time because you can augment your training so easily
Right, yeah.
and
But
and be supplement.
yeah, I mean, this is well. There's so much we could go into here, but I'm going to try to keep it short. I mean, for me personally, I do see Aikido as a martial art, but it's almost like if you take a cup of ocean water,
Mm.
and you say, look, the ocean is actually inside the cup, which is true, but then you actually make the cup greater than the ocean, when actually the ocean is vastly bigger than the cup. They're incomparable, and I actually see that's my experience and my subsequently my approach to Aikido, that yes, it is a martial art, but it's like a piece of pie, or like a pie that you cut into 10 pieces, 12 pieces, 100 pieces. It doesn't matter. 4 pieces. One of those pieces is martial arts. Completely, it's part of the pie. It's a holistic part of the pie. But
Yes.
if I reduce Aikido to that piece of the pie and say Aikido must be a martial art, then Aikido is going to serve me in the dojo. It's going to serve me in any kind of real conflicts that I have in my life, which are not too many, to be honest. Then that's the martial realm. But what about when I have a conflict with my wife, or when my daughter doesn't want to brush her teeth, or these types of conflicts? Do I turn that into a martial engagement as well? So that's kind of the problem. I find if you say that Aikido has to be a martial art, it's reductionist. But if you say, for example, Aikido is a conflict resolution, and you take that into every realm, you take that into a fight, you take that into the mat, you take that into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I would assume, you take that
Sure.
into a discussion with your wife, your job, your boss. It's everywhere. It's every single piece of the pie. So the central principle that we're looking for, true victory is victory over oneself, is actually in every piece of the pie. Reducing it to a martial art is actually, my feeling, is just reducing it to one piece of the pie.
Yes, dude, I think that's a very well expressed
Delicious piece of the pie. Depending on the style, it's a really delicious piece of the pie, and I love it.
right.
Yeah.
But no, man, it's or people are just serving pie wrong. They don't know how to. You got to do it with the tenth.
Right, they're
Yeah.
comparing pies. That's cool. Well, listen, we're gonna dive deeper into this big question: is Aikido a martial art? By the way, what I said, it's still an open question for me, and I really like to hold these really hard questions as more like a Zen koan, because if we can, yeah, let's say we take a stand, because you have to take a stand, and at the same time, which is incredibly difficult, you stay open, and maybe yes, and that is going to kind of drive us forward in our own evolution, I believe.
I love it. I love it, and I think that just promoting that kind of acceptance of a position without the attachment, or at least reduction in the attachment,
Yes.
I think will help move people toward. I don't know that if they need to go toward any particular segment of the pie, but just an appreciation for the pie as a whole.
Absolutely, and you've been around long enough to see how that's what's happening in the evolution of martial arts anyways. Aikido,
Right.
I'm sure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm sure all the other, if they're not staying kind of in their own fortress, kind of, entrenched in their own belief system, if they are meeting if there are kind of cross fertilization, that's happening. It's natural.
And I think that's where some of the most exciting yields and benefits can come from. And as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has gained more popularity, the number of competitions has gone up, the rule sets of various competitions have evolved. There are all these variations, but it's still inside.
Yeah.
And it feels very insular, to be totally honest. So
yeah.
I think that being able to extend outside of your own, I need to get out of my own pie tin.
Yeah, right. But to be fair, I mean, like you said on a recent interview that you did with Edgar Ortega, that if you're really going to get into something, you gotta commit for a few years to really get into it. So we have such a vast curriculum that we need to go deep into. So I mean, and the average person, they have time in their life to train twice a week or something like that. They're not all like you and me, fanatical, where we push everything aside. So what to do, man? What to do?
Well, I think, but I don't know. Enticing people to that there is more depth there, if they choose to pursue that.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
saying it's okay if it's not. It's not the only way is not an intensive Shideshi program.
That's right.
It is certainly about accepting all people at whatever level of involvement they choose to be at.
Yeah.
And for those that choose to get a little bit more intense, I think we need to make those pathways a little more accessible.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, we're going to be looking into this question, is Aikido a martial art? You're going to be on the panel with some other cool, maybe even controversial guests, and maybe we'll kind of be even a little bit provocative with the question. So everybody who's seeing this, you're invited to join the Tele-Summit, Aikido at the Leading Edge. There'll be a link below this video somewhere. Please go there, just put in your email address and you'll get all the information. It's totally free. Over 30 amazing teachers, including the fantastic Roy Dean, if I may say so.
I appreciate you including me in on the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your perspective. All right, man. All the best. Take care.
You too. Looking forward to it.